All right. So we are now recording this session, and we will follow up by sending a copy of the recording to everyone who registered, as well as a handout for today. So the first announcement, a number of folks are already doing. If you need continuing education credits or PDUs, because you're from an ATD chapter or maybe a PMI chapter, please just drop your full name and the organization and chapter that you belong to so that Rachel can make sure that she gets the attendance list to the proper person at your organization. We want to make sure that you get credit for being here today. Next announcement has to do with our December Lunch and Learn. There's been a date change. It is now taking place on December the 12th. More information about how to register for that Lunch and Learn, plus all of our Lunch and Learns for 2024 at the Break the Norm Leadership website. A reminder about today's session is we'll be talking for about 30, maybe a little bit more minutes. This is because this is an unsponsored session. If you want more content, then we need a sponsor. So if your local chapter of PMI or ATD is looking to sponsor an event, consider us, and we're happy to run a session for an entire full hour, perhaps even featuring some of your own talent and expertise. Next announcement is there will be a flyer that we'll be sending out to everyone. I said this earlier, and also playback will be on the Break the Norm Leadership website. And I'll make sure I drop that link. Actually, Rachel, would you mind dropping that link into the chat so that folks have it? At that same link, you'll be able to see a calendar of all the Lunch and Learns available on our website, and we'll also make sure we email those to you after the session. One exciting thing that Break the Norm Leadership is doing, one more exciting thing that Break the Norm Leadership is doing is next year we are offering an organizational development certificate program. It's 3 months, 6 sessions. There's more information about the program on the Break the Norm Leadership website, and I'll probably talk about it for a few minutes at the very, very end of this session. Finally, if you enjoyed this session and would like other opportunities to bring us to your organization, either virtually or in person, please email Rachel@breakthenormleadership.com. And I'm sure Rachel will drop her email address in the chat as well. With that, I want to get started with today's session because I'm very excited. It's about influencing without authority. And I have one of my favorite humans and a great guest with us today, Jeremy Teal. And let me just say a few words about Jeremy and why I asked him to be a part of today's session. So Jeremy is the classic trifecta. He is a consultant, he's a creative, and he's also a community organizer. I know him from his community organization events, as well as his ability to be an amazing photographer in addition to event manager. Long story short, anyone who does these 3 things, consultant, creative, community organizer, by definition is influencing others without the authority of positional authority, sorry. So he is hands down very qualified. He's been charming, influencing, nudging, using his powers for good, for the good of others. But he's going to help me today break down to you how you might influence without authority. And we actually have a pretty amazing handout that'll be coming to you afterwards, where we actually make it easy for you to decide which of the influencing without authority tactics you should use by answering just 5 simple questions about your situation. More about that later. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, so let's start by just making sure that we're all clear about what we mean by influencing without authority. So at Break the Norm Leadership, here's our definition. And Jeremy, I'm curious how you feel about it, or if you have a different or friendly amendment to our definition. But we define influencing without authority as this: getting people to use your advice even when they don't have to. Actually, especially when they don't have to, because you can't make them. Jeremy, how does that definition strike you?
That sounds very simply appropriate. That's exactly what it is. It's owning something that is kind of in you that people really, really, they got to have it. They don't even know they have to have it. But as soon as they see you having it, it's like, oh, I need to change something. So I would say that's exactly the definition. Look at y'all. Y'all so smart.
Stop it. All right. And there are many different types of situations in which you might want to use influencing without authority skills. Off the top of my head, I can think of at work, if you're managing up or across, maybe even down the organizational chart, you might want to use influencing without authority skills. Jeremy, what are some other settings where people might want to use these skills?
Well, obviously in your personal life, right? Like it happens every day. You come across people in a grocery store line, or just even in passing when talking about all kinds of fun situational things. So influencing people's thoughts and ideas of how they're going to change the world happens every single day.
Mhm. Even in your own home, right? Because I had a parent once say, I have no children myself, but I had a parent once say that, children, um, you have your circle of influence and your circle of concern. And children
Okay.
definitely fall within your circle of concern, but often don't fall within your circle of influence. Like you literally have to nudge them. You can't make them do what you want. I know that you don't have small humans in your house either, but how does that strike you?
Yeah, I don't. I have a lot of plants, and I would say they definitely fall into the concern. But I would say the exact same thing. That personal life piece and having authority without really being in control of anything. You're just like kind of popping around and making sure that you're doing what you need to do to make sure everything around you is going well. I'd
Yeah,
say that, yeah.
yeah, it's almost as if there's a level of humility that you have to accept that there are, what is that serenity prayer? Grant me the wisdom, help me.
Oh my goodness, I don't know.
I know it's I feel horrible about this. Like,
It's the AA prayer.
yes, the courage to change the things that I can. The part that I really want to focus on is the wisdom to know the difference between what I can
Yes,
control and what I can't, and things I can control them, but things that I can't, use these other set of skills.
yes.
All right. Now, here's my big question, Jeremy. What is it that you think people tend to get wrong about influencing others, especially when you don't have the authority to make them do what you want?
I would say that people think that it's a form of manipulation, maybe, and they feel kind of guilty and bad about it. And it's not. It's just you've been working your whole life on accident to get to this place, to have this sort of aura around you.
Yeah.
You're not making anyone do anything. It just happens. It's a part of the skill set, and it's a part of the beauty that is that wonderful trifecta that you talked about earlier. Knowing who you are, knowing what you can do, and knowing what you can do with it is a whole. It's
Mm.
not manipulation, babe. It's just what it is. That's life for us anyway.
Yes. No, no, I appreciate that. And please know that this is for everyone, that during this conversation, we are going to, and we'll speak specifically about this later, we're talking about ethical influencing without authority, using our powers
Yes.
for good, not for evil, right?
Yes.
All right. So what we've done at Break the Norm Leadership is we've identified 6 different buckets, 6 different strategies for how you can influence without authority, and we're going to talk through each one. I'll drop them in the chat, but know that they're going to be in the handout as well. So don't go crazy taking notes. You feel free to just tune into the conversation. And strategy number one, this has to do with building relationships. And we're talking about building trust, being likable, listening actively, recognizing the contributions of others. Jeremy, in your opinion, what is the magic behind this first set of skills? Why does having a positive relationship with somebody actually make it easier to influence them?
Oh my goodness. So first thing is people that like you listen to you. So you gotta have people like you. And if they don't know you personally, that's okay. There's a way that you can come to a person that's a complete stranger,
Yeah.
and try and build a real quick rapport. But again, frankly, if a person doesn't care for you, they're not going to listen to you. It doesn't matter how great you are or even how wonderful your information is. So I'd say that's the first.
Oh, yeah, yeah. What's that saying? People don't care what you know until they know that you care.
Yeah, that is true. That is very true. And honestly, even the person giving the information, if we're talking about yourself and using your powers for good, if you don't care about what you're saying, low key, why are you saying it?
Mm.
Like, are you just trying to mess with this person, or are you really trying to give some information? If it's genuine, it will come through.
Oh, God. So I hear that last part. I just want to double click on that. Being genuine. So genuinely building relationships for the purpose of just enjoying that person, getting to know that person, as opposed to let me get to know them just enough so that they will listen to the thing that I say. Again, that's not using your powers for good.
Yeah, it's two different things.
Fair. All right, let's talk about the bucket number two,
Okay.
This strategy number two has to do with communicating in such a way that you actually are able to persuade people. So we're talking about communicating with terse brilliance, being concise and compelling, telling engaging stories, framing things positively. I want to focus on the second thing, the stories piece. Jeremy, in your experience, why are stories such a powerful influencer with people? Like, and then I'll actually ask a second part. Why do you think we don't use stories more in our professional life? I hear them a lot in our personal lives, but not
Mhm.
so much in professional lives. I'm curious about those two questions. Why stories are so helpful with influencing, and why not more in our professional lives?
Well, I mean, stories make things human immediately. Like if it's a story that means a human either did it or can do it or is thinking about doing it. That's why people love movies and books so much. Like that's all fantasy. We know that dragons might or might not exist. I'm just saying I don't. I'm still on the fence. But if there's a human riding said dragon, then okay, this I can understand how this would work. I say all that to say it makes it relatable. It's the idea that okay, you're talking to me like a person. You're not talking to me in this big fantasy ideal. You're not talking to me as a spreadsheet. You're not talking to me as a document. You're talking to me as a human. And I can see how this would go. So I'd say stories is the most relatable way to get any point across because it makes it relatable. It makes it human sized.
I like how you talked about human size because, or relatable, it goes both ways, right? That me telling a story, I make you relatable, but I also
Mm-hmm.
make myself human, right? Because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
just a robot demanding that I'm not your robot overlord demanding that you do X, Y, or Z, right?
Yes, and if you are, and that's the movie you're in, then we know you likely will win because the robot overlord never wins.
Yeah, it's sad.
It's,
I'm
it's
always
sad
rooting for the
sometimes.
robots, right? Um,
Listen, you're an engineer, you can't help it.
Fair. The other thing that I've heard about stories is that, well, I've read the research and I can quote that later for folks who need it, that stories literally put the storyteller and the story listeners on the same wavelength. From
Mm-hmm.
personal experience, I know that when I hear a story, there's a piece of me that can't help but put myself in the story. Like I empathize with that character or with that one. So it's literally like um, uh, the storyteller is living in my head rent free. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a really powerful thing because it just means like after the story is over and I'm out doing my business, their voice is in my head. And how amazing is that if you're the storyteller, knowing that your message is living around in people's heads?
That is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing.
All right, let's go to the third set of the third strategy. This one
Okay.
has to do with leveraging social psychology tactics. And here's again where I'm going to, out of an abundance of caution, emphasize that we're really talking about using these skills ethically because marketers, people who want your money use these social psychology tactics all the time and without your knowledge. So we just want to make sure that if you're going to use these things, please do them responsibly. But here's the question for you, Jeremy. How is it that I might know if I'm the one trying to influence without authority? I'm using social psychology tactics. How do I know if I'm using them ethically or not? Like, what's the measure or the barometer? Like how can I tell?
Well, you have to ask yourself a question or so. And you have to ask a question if they knew the reason why I'm asking and using these skills, would they feel any different about it?
Ooh,
Um,
wait. Say that again, because
okay.
twice for the people in the back.
So if they knew the reason why I was asking about the thing that if they knew the reason I was trying to get to them for something,
Mhm.
would they feel how I mean, how would they feel about it? You ask yourself that first. And it sounds terrible, but that's you try and go in with those feelings. You try and tell those stories to get them to feel the feels so you can get to the point. It's like, oh, okay, I'm getting what you're saying. Tell me more. It is a terrible the marketers. I have been working with them for years. They do it all the time, and it gets me, and that's why I'm on Timu right now.
You're funny. So it sounds like it's really about maybe not explicit consent, but at least some implied consent that I'm being ethical if they knew what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, and they would still be willing to engage in the conversation, then I'm probably acting ethically. But if they knew what I was doing and were like, no way, I'm out. This is like, I'm not signing up for Jeremy's cult today. Oh, I'm sorry, not Jeremy's cult, Jeremy's club today.
Jimmy's
Um,
Club for
Jeremy's
good.
club.
Yes.
Yes, club for good. Then we're probably acting unethically. That sounds like I'm getting, am I getting the right message here?
You're getting the right message. And again, I think it goes kind of in tied to that last one with the genuine piece. Um,
Hmm.
People can just tell. I mean, there's psychology around the gut reaction, and you know when someone's trying you, and you know when you're trying someone. So try not to do that. That is, you got to
Yeah,
ask that question. If I ask this question and I get an ick, they're probably going to get an
we can
ick.
ick. You're right. You're right. Because the BS detector among humans can be quite astute, and I think it's foolish. Actually, take it back. It's more offensive um, when we don't recognize it in people. When we just assume, oh, they'll believe anything that we tell them.
Oh yeah, and some people will, and that's terrible because it makes it hard for the rest of us who how do we we think a little harder than that. And shout out to people who don't need to think that hard. I kind of envy you. I'm not gonna lie. It'd be so nice to just meh, like wall through it, but that's just not how our world works.
Fair, fair. All right. Let's go to bucket number four. And I'd like to spend a little bit of time here because this one, it surprised me that when we found this to be true, because logically it doesn't quite click for me. And this fourth strategy has to do with networking strategically. That if you network effectively, that if you build coalitions, and that if you leverage connections, that you'll actually be able to influence um, other people without using authority. And for me, Jeremy, maybe you can help me, I don't know, to connect the dots together here. How is it that having a large social network, or a broad and strong network can actually help me be an influencer? Like I see it on Instagram, but I don't understand like intuitively how it works. Help me, Jeremy,
Well,
please.
I mean, it's help me. It's the idea that if so many people already follow me, so should you. Or if so many people listen to me and want to continue listening to me, so should you. And on social media, on Instagram, for instance, you got 1 million followers. Say that because if you got 1 million followers, they might have a few hundred. And he's like, okay, I'm gonna listen to this guy because he might be saying something.
So it's a little bit of social proof there that you're using, like the fact that all these other people listening to me, you should listen to me too.
It's 100% social proof. Yes.
And now that you say that, it actually makes me go back to something you said earlier, or that you alluded to earlier, that I, maybe I'm not the best person to influence you. So I'm just gonna, because she has her camera on, hope you forgive me, Lisa. Like if I wanted to influence Lisa, I might not be the best person. Perhaps I offended Lisa. I disrespected her. Perhaps she just hates me. Like she knows I'm a Virgo. She's a Cancer. I'm gonna make up. She's anti-Virgo, but maybe she loves Pisces, and that's what you are. I'm also
Mm-hmm.
making that up. I have no idea. So perhaps if I want to influence Lisa, what I do is say, Jeremy, you're in my network. I
Yes.
want, I would like Lisa to be open to the possibility of considering this idea. Would you mind bridging a conversation between me and her? Like that seems like the other piece around this, using your network to actually be the, I don't know, the spokesperson or the initiator or the connector to the person or group that you want to influence. Do I have that right?
Yes, you got it right. It's the specific messaging, the specific deliverer. That's not the word, but the person who's going to bring it to them. Sometimes you do have to take a step back in order to get to the goal. Your network is there for a reason. Use them. They want to be used. As a network uh, member, I love to be used for good. So make sure you do that. But yeah, the same with this fantastic Lisa scenario. Shout out to Lisa. If I know a Pisces and that's maybe going to say the words that I need them to say correctly, for then Lisa to click on something to come and have a chat with me, I'm using it. I mean, what do you have to lose other than maybe they won't come?
Oh, you're right. And now that you say that, I'm looking behind me because I thought I might have it on my shelf, but I think it's on my downstairs shelf. There's a book about this that I read years ago, Political Savvy, and I can't remember the author's first name, but his last name is DeLuca. And he had a really elaborate, I call it elaborate, but a very systematic way of identifying who you want to influence, what your relationship is with them, and whether or not you are the best person who's in your network, and who has the best, what's the best path to get to the person, to get the right message to the right person. And I think our decision tree that we're going to talk about a little bit later is a bit easier, but I thought his method was incredibly eye-opening just in terms of, oh, wait, I might not be the one. Yeah, maybe it's my idea, but I might not be the one to start the conversation.
I have to say that I come from the world. I learned my superpower, or like really sharpened my superpower in sexual health and wellness,
Hmm.
in health and wellness spaces for states and counties. And one of the big issues was getting healthcare to Black women in rural areas.
Fair.
And yes, I could strategize all day long about how it works. And I'm a Black man that was raised by Black women, and I have all of the information. However, I do not have the circle of influence as a Black man. Um, I but I know how to do it. So I need to go find someone in my network that can do the
Hmm.
thing, or at least can be given the script or given the information to then go get into it. This works this way all the time. And hopefully, I thought I was doing good. I still think I was doing good. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
doing good. Healthcare, Black women, good, good, good. But yes, that's an example of this. Knowing, having the social proof, having the social awareness, having the humility, but then being able to create a much better message through a vessel to get the information to a person. This is using it, babe.
Oh, yeah. And that humility piece, I want to amplify that. You have to be willing to let go that you are the one to generate the idea, do all the talking. You have to say, um, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy, right? Do I want to be the one in charge or do I just want the result that is my ultimate goal? Or do I
Yes,
want to be the spokesperson, or do I want to have the end result? And just leaning into that end result piece by using the smartest, most impactful method possible.
indeed.
All right, let's go on to strategy number 5, which focuses around negotiating win-wins and managing conflict. It's basically managing the interpersonal, I wanted to say messiness, but the interpersonal interestingness that happens when humans work with other humans. So we're talking about things like about balancing empathy with self-advocacy, resolving conflicts effectively, seeking mutual benefits. So here's my question for you, Jeremy. How might being a good negotiator or conflict manager actually make you more influential? I see the value of those skills, but again, help make the connection between good negotiator, good conflict manager, and influencer. How are those things connected?
Oof. Okay, so I have not taken my ADHD pill this morning, so you got to give me a second to break that back down for me. Say it one more time, Ravi.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. All right. So what we found is that people who can negotiate well, particularly negotiate win-win situations where
Mhm.
everybody benefits, and people who can manage conflict tend to be more influential within the organizations or within the social groups. However, so let's say that that's true, but I'm trying to struggle. How? Why is that true? Why is it that being good at these two very important skills actually could make you influential? And I'm hoping you can help us connect those two dots between being influential and being a good negotiator, good conflict manager.
If you are humble enough to take yourself out of a problem and recognize that you do have the solution, or let's say in the conflicts that you're having this back and forth with this problem at work, if you can make it less about you versus it and us versus it, to us versus it, it makes it so much easier for everyone to get on board. And also you get to I think you always get to the resolution so much faster as well, because you're taking your tiny piece, and I'm saying tiny because we're humans and it's a big ball that we live on.
Yep.
So if it's an us problem, it's a much easier way to go against it, because problems will always exist. They're always bigger than us as individuals, but they're never bigger than the team. The something in the team is going to figure it out. That's the social, not the social. That's you being a great influencer and understanding how to use your network and understanding how to be humble and understanding the self-awareness and all that great stuff, into influencing other people to do the same. So, all right, everyone, come out of your bubble.
Ah,
We need to get in one big bubble and attack this thing. because we want to solve this problem. If that makes any sense, again, I have not taken my pill yet. So.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. Well, so I'm gonna do two things with your comment, which are really helpful. So it sounds like developing that reputation for being somebody who doesn't make it about them, but makes it about results, that reputation can help you become more influential with other people.
Absolutely.
And I want to go back to something you said right at the very beginning, and I'll use, if she won't mind, Lisa again. I'm just using Lisa because I can see her on my screen. That um, let's call Lisa the problem. So let's pretend Lisa's the problem for a moment. That I might think initially that Jeremy and I have a problem. You know, it's me against Jeremy,
Hmm.
or like, what, I'm not violent, so we'll thumb wrestle. Me and versus Jeremy, thumb wrestling. But if I want to develop a reputation for being a good conflict manager, what I do is I make it not me against Jeremy, but me and Jeremy against the problem, like me and Jeremy against Lisa. So I've now started positively influencing Jeremy. Sorry, Lisa. I know that you are not a problem. You're on camera. That's the only problem you seem to really have today. Um, but I turn it from a me versus Jeremy to an us, like you said, us as the team against the problem, and that's what I think a lot of people miss with negotiation. They're trying to like get the best deal or trying to win, as opposed to trying to build a relationship with the person who's they think is across from them, but really should be next to them facing the problem. Did I interpret
Absolutely.
what you said correctly earlier?
You did, because we really are all in this together. Even the parts of the work or the personality of the person that we don't particularly care for, it all comes out in the wash at the end of the day. So yes, if you take it and make it not a you versus them thing and make it an us versus them thing, it makes it so much simpler for you to return you. It sounds horrible, but retain your influence because now
Mm-hmm.
you're doing more positive things. You're showing that we can get to this a different way, which a lot of people don't always have a lot of examples of.
Yeah,
So go you. And you also get to solve a problem. Like, you get to do it. So that another feather in the cap, if you will. I think that's offensive to birds, but we'll figure out a way to make it non-offensive one day.
yes, we'll make it bird friendly eventually. All right, that is a huge help. All right, let me go to the sixth and final category. After we do this category, I have just like a couple, like I follow up a closing question for you, Jeremy, and then I want to walk through the handout we'll be sending to everybody so they have a sense of what it's about. So, Jeremy, this sixth strategy has to do with leading without commanding. So let's just say, for example, I do have positional authority. Let's say I am the boss of you. I might not want to use my boss powers in all situations. I might want to just influence you as opposed to tell you or command you. So this strategy involves demonstrating your expertise, engaging in collaborative leadership, and setting an example. And here's the question I have for you. What are the benefits that I, as an influencer, might experience by not throwing my weight around when I have positional authority?
Oh, well, I'd say the first thing I'd say is you don't look a butthole, like you're like a meanie, because that's so bad. No one wants that. Um,
Don't be a jerk. Rule number one
don't be
always.
a jerk. I mean, it shows that you're not a jerk first. It also just shows that I always say that believes it makes people believe that you trust them to do the thing you hired them to
Mm,
do, selected them to do, asked them to do. Also, it gets you out of the way and lets people fly because sometimes you really don't get the opportunity because there's the person that we're trying not to be that's in charge or that
yeah,
has that influence. They never get out of the freaking way, so you could never do your thing. So it also makes you look cool that way. And again, still, you get the problem done. You get the problem solved. So the confidence is there, if you will. Like
I
you
like it.
give it's like you're not giving people confidence. Hopefully they have it. But this sort of leadership style, this sort of way of influencing people allows you to know what you know about this person and they can prove it to themselves. Like, oh my gosh, I could do that. Yeah, you could do it the whole time, babe. Why do you think you were selected? Why do you think you're in the network, babe?
I like this conversation about confidence. I want to try replacing the word confidence with another word that I think is
Okay.
relevant here, which is commitment. That
Okay.
if I if I as a leader want you to be committed to an action, I have to let you choose. I don't know if it was my therapist or someone else's therapist, but a therapist somewhere told me or told someone who told me that no one can be committed to something unless they make it unless it's a choice.
Sure.
And if I give you an order or a command, you don't have a choice. But if I use my influence skills instead, you have the choice about how to act, and you're more likely to be committed to a choice that you make, right?
Indeed, indeed. The idea of having the official authority is so bleh. Like you got the authority, babe. You don't have to throw your weight around and be anything. But the idea of taking away my choice is absolutely a problem. We've got to give you the choice to be committed to something. And if you trust me enough, which you probably should by now because we've made it to step 6, then we should be good to go. We should be good to go, and let's go fix this problem. I'm not going to call on Lisa, but Lisa, you're the problem. I love you.
Yes, yes. Oh my goodness, she's amazing. All right. Let me say one last thing about this, and then I have a closing question for you before I do some closing logistics. It also seems like the whole throwing your weight around, using your positional authority, um, there's an issue of motivation there that many leaders I've talked with, worked with, they want their direct reports to be motivated. But if I, as a leader, am telling you, Jeremy, you have to do X,
Mhm.
and you actually do it, I would argue that you're not motivated. I'm motivated. I know I want something to happen. You are just compliant, right? And
Mhm.
I think most leaders would feel a little bit uncomfortable with just knowing that their direct reports are being compliant and not actually motivated. So that seems like another danger of throwing your weight around is you take away the opportunity for people to be motivated because you're really sort of putting them into a position where they should be compliant. Does that make any
Mhm.
sense?
No, that makes a whole bunch of sense. That a lot of people hire that way. They hire
Mm,
people that they don't that they think they're motivated, but the truth is you're just getting all the answers that you want. So they're not motivated. They just want a job. So I do think that the idea of like tossing your weight around, you get mixed up in it. And you don't do that humble piece where you step back and say, is this person like actually doing this because they want to, or are they just doing it
mm,
because I told them to? And in some scenarios, it's very important that a person does exactly what you say. But in other scenarios, the magic doesn't happen unless you allow them to use their own superpowers uh, and make a few mistakes, or even be
yes.
able to give a few of your pieces to them. It's like, hey, I see this. I might be overstepping, but hear me out. Those are things. Those things motivate people. That's motivation. But
Mm,
if I just do everything on the list, no, I'm just doing my job. Like I'm doing this so I don't get fired.
fair, fair.
That's
All right, Jeremy, I appreciate you spending time bouncing these ideas, playing with them with us at Break the Norm Leadership. Um,
oof.
Last question, it's a two-parter. I'm going to ask you to end with by telling us if there is any advice you could leave in people's brains. What's the one thing you'd want them to take away from this conversation? But before you do that, can you tell people how they might be able to get a hold of you, how they can might be able to follow you on socials?
Well, I'm with the dog that was on the screen. That's first of all. That
Oh,
dog
that
is
was
here.
Ellie, our chief morale officer at Break the Norm Leadership,
Yeah,
because wiener dogs are the best at keeping people engaged.
indeed. Indeed. So Jeremy A. Teal on all social media platforms. And then my email address, Jeremy A. Teal, jeremy@jeremyateal.com. I can put it in your chat. I also have a website, jeremyateal.com. I tried to, I'm a marketer, y'all. This is my thing. You just make everything one. That way, it doesn't matter what you type into the Googles, you'll
Got it.
find me.
And it's teal, Teel, not the color.
Correct.
All right. And if you had any advice that you want to make sure people leave with as part of this conversation, Jeremy, what would you want people to know about, or think, or consider, or rent about influencing without authority?
That's so, and you sent me this question before, so I already know that it was coming, but it didn't resonate
Good.
until you said it. Okay, it is that you will always have the authority, and using it for good is one thing, but allowing other people to see what you do,
Mm,
teach, essentially teach. If you see something and you see someone going a little off that step, a little off that step, say, hey friend, do you mind if I give you some advice? Because that's definitely helped me a lot. Uh, yeah, that has definitely helped me a lot. I have had a lot of humans be human with me,
yeah.
and it has allowed me to be a better human. So yes.
And I can testify to that, having seen Jeremy do his work. the ability you have to connect with people and to get them to do what you want them to do when you definitely cannot make them is pretty remarkable. It's amazing. I was about to say amazing. So it's remarkable and amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yes,
There we go.
it's one piece.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy. So what everyone sees on your screen now, I'm going to just walk through this. This is the handout that we're sending to everyone who registered for today's session. It'll also be on the Break the Norm website. What we have here is our Influencing Without Authority handout. All 6 strategies and the underlying tactics are listed here. You can see them here on this first page. On the second page is where it gets really interesting and fun. We developed a decision tree to help you decide how to apply the different tactics for influencing that authority. So I'll start at the very bottom of this page. We list here, here are some tactics to use if you have no authority. Build trust, be likable, listen actively, recognize contributions. Jumping down the list, here are some tactics to use if you're using them in a competitive culture. Demonstrate expertise, negotiate skillfully, resolve conflicts effectively. Now, how do you know which one of these buckets, A through J, to use? Well, you simply have to answer 5 questions. Can you scroll up just a little bit, Rachel? Yep, the decision tree questions are listed near the top of this page. Do you have positional authority? Yes or no? How would you describe your relationship with the person or group, close or distant? How would you describe the quality of that relationship as positive or negative or / neutral? Is the organizational culture more collaborative or competitive? You'll select collaborative or competitive. And are you looking for immediate influence or long-term influence? And the 2 choices are immediate or long-term. Depending how you answer each one of those 5 questions, you'll be able to navigate the tree down to tactics that you can use in a particular situation. Now, our situations are more geared towards a workplace, but there probably is a corollary for more social or personal environments. Anyway, we would love your feedback about the decision tree when you get the handout. So feel free to let us know. And also at the very bottom of the handout, we have our upcoming events, including our OD certificate, which starts in February of 2024 and runs for 3 months. There's much more information on our website, but there's a little teaser right there. And also at the bottom of the page will be our save the dates for all of our upcoming lunch and learns. The next one we're doing is on December 12th about how to build a leadership development program in your organization. All right. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. Hopefully we have earned the gift of your time and attention, and we hope that we will see you again. If you can always contact us, at breakthenormleadership.com. But until we talk to you again, please take care and have an awesome day.